morning, everyone. First of all, thanks to Business Advantage for putting on the conference and the opportunity to present here. I'm going to go through our normal corporate presentation, but I'm going to try to give a bit of history on the company and also on some of the projects that we've been involved in, as well as telling you about the current status. Hopefully, through this, you'll get an idea of what PNG has to offer in terms of the mining industry, and also understand what Highlands is doing in PNG. Many of you might be familiar with Highlands. For those who aren't, we've been involved in PNG for more than 20 years. Actually, Highlands started from an Australian company, Mount Isa Mines, when it actually floated off its PNG interests back in the early 1990s. The company then was called Highlands Gold, and it had some assets that we still have today in Ramu and Frieda, but it also had an interest in the Porgera gold mine. It was that interest in Porgera that led to Highlands Gold being taken out by Placidome, and then it refloated Highlands Pacific, the company of today. So Highlands started its life, Highlands Pacific, the company we are now, started its life 20 years ago. And at that time we had a project called Ramu, another one called Frieda, and exploration ground all over PNG. In those 20 years of operating up in PNG, either by ourselves or together with partners, we've explored various parts of the country. In this time, Frieda has moved from an exploration project to one that is in permitting, and as the Minister said this morning, a critical project for the country. Ramu has also moved from an exploration project to now being PNG's first nickel and cobalt mine. Star Mountains, an area up outside of Octedi, has been discovered and is potentially a new copper-gold district. And finally, a project called Kainantu was one that Highlands explored, it permitted, developed, operated, and then sold to another company. So hopefully from this you can see that PNG is a place that not only has strong geological potential, but it also has a government system that's conducive to developing mines, and that's what attracts investment. Having operated in PNG for so long, we've developed a strong community and government reputation, and that has made us an ideal project partner in PNG. And it's one of the ways that we've developed, and we've brought in numerous project partners, and some big ones too: Anglo American, MCC, Guangdong Rising Asset Management, Graham, and Sujits. Currently, we've got interests in 4 projects, and from an operational point of view, they're all moving along nicely. In the last 12 months, we've done exploration field work, drilling, geophysics, all of those things at Star Mountains. Ramu is now at nameplate capacity and producing record levels. We lodged a special mining lease application and an environmental impact study with the government for our Frieda project, and we've undertaken LiDAR surveys down at our Siwa Bay project. So extremely active in the business. From a corporate point of view, just mention our key shareholders. PNG SDP are one of our largest ones, previously the owner of the Octedi mine, now a managed fund with about $1.4 billion of funds under management. Graham, who are our partner in PNG, and Trafigura, a major commodity trading house. Again, big players that have been attracted to PNG and the mining industry. I'll go through our projects now in a little bit more detail, and I'll give a little bit more background and some history. The first one I'm going to mention is one that we don't actually have right now. We sold this project a few years ago, but the Kainantu gold project was explored by Highlands in the early 2000s. We permitted the project in 2003, we developed it in 2004 and 2005, commissioned it in 2006 and operated it through until we sold it to Barrick in 2007. So again, just another good example of the process in PNG and how it works. One thing that investors want to know, and developers, is that when you come and explore in a country, that you're able to you know there's a process there for getting things permitted and getting things into operation so you can get a return on your investment. Our Frieda project is a project that was discovered in the 1960s. It's a massive resource, there's no doubt. It's one of the top 10 undeveloped copper-gold projects in the world. It's got a resource inventory of over 13 million tonnes of copper and over 20 million ounces of gold. So it's a giant. Highlands has had several companies partner it on Frieda over the years. Those companies include names like Cypress, Phelps Dodge, Noranda, Falconbridge, Xstrata, Glencore. And over that time, over $500 million has been spent on the project, either in drilling or project studies. Currently, it's a joint venture between ourselves. We have 20%, and Graham, who are a Chinese state-owned enterprise, that have 80%. The project's currently progressing through the permitting stage. It's anticipated that the government will, through its various departments, will take until later this year to review all the documents. We lodged our special mining lease application in June last year and our environmental impact statement in December last year. The government in PNG, when it looks at projects, it not only has to look at all the approvals, it's also got to look at the level of equity that it would like to acquire in a project. The government's got the right to take up to a 30% interest in a project in PNG. If it takes up a 30% interest, then Highlands' interest, we have 20, would reduce down to 15. But that's one of the assessments that they've got to go through, along with a lot of other community documents, mining development contracts, etc. Frieda is a huge prize. It's got a massive copper-gold resource, as I said, but it also requires extensive infrastructure to unwrap that prize, and that's the challenge that we face with the project. There's no doubt it's a nation-building project, and we hope after a long time, discovered in the 1960s, and here we are in 2017, we hope that it will be the next project to get off the ground in PNG. Our second project is a project called Star Mountains Copper Gold Project. It's just outside of Octetti. This project was first discovered or drilled in the 1970s by a company called Kennecott. They actually later went on to find the Octetti deposit. After some intermittent exploration between 1980s to 2000s, Highlands got hold of the ground and started drilling in 2011. Again, Star Mountains, we feel, is a project that has great potential, but also significant challenges. The biggest one, again, being a lack of infrastructure. And we have to use helicopters and fixed wings to get all our equipment, even move the drill rigs with helicopters. So it's very expensive. And Highlands had to look at other partners to help with that expenditure. Anglo American became our joint venture partner in 2015, and we structured an arrangement, a joint venture arrangement with them, which will secure our project funding and also provide incentives for them to move the project along. Just to give you some idea about the way the joint venture structure is and the way we've gone about business in finding and looking to develop things but bring partners in. Anglo's got the ability to earn up to an 80% interest in the project. So we would fall down to 20%. However, for Anglo to do that, they must complete a full feasibility study on the project, and they must provide us with up to $150 million in project funding. Currently, they're in what we call phase one of this earn-in process, so they can earn up to 51%. And to do that, there's two milestones. The first one is they had to spend $25 million over 4 years. In actual fact, they spent that in 2 years, so they've already achieved that one. And the second one is they have to find or define a 3 million tonne copper equivalent JORC inferred resource. So basically they've got to find 3 million tonnes of copper in the ground, and that will, within 5 years, and that'll achieve their 51% interest. The key for Highlands is that we have no funding requirement for our exposure to this project going forward. So I'm just trying to give you an idea about, I guess, the way we've done business in PNG in bringing other partners in and still trying to move projects along. up at Star Mountains, just a bit of the technical side, we've got 7 leases up there that cover 1,000 square kilometres. We've undertaken 4 drilling programs, one in 2011 and one in 2012. That was prior to Anglo. We got some results, and that's what attracted Anglo to the project. And then we've done one in 2015 and a current one that we're doing now. Sort of holes that we're drilling here, not quite as deep as what the gas guys do, but they're still 800 to 1,000 metres, and that's sort of an indication of the size of the deposit that we're looking for. And we need that size of the deposit because we have to have returns from the project. They're going to be able to support a lot of the infrastructure that's needed. We're currently drilling at the moment, but we'll end that. We'll go onto a hiatus for about 3 or 4 months, review everything, and then go back into it next year. Our next project is a little exploration project down in the southern tip of PNG at Siwa Bay. It's a very early stage exploration project. Again, we've used partners to help us develop that. Our partners are Sujitz, a trading house from Japan, and Pacific Metals, and they're funding the expenditure. Again, we've done a couple of drilling programs there, looking to advance the project using other partners' funding and our experience to operate in the country. Our last project, and probably the most exciting one, so I'll spend a little bit more time on it to detail it, is the Ramu Nickel-cobalt project. And it's a real PNG success story. Like Frieda, it was discovered in the 1960s. Unlike Frieda though, it's now in operation. It's taken a lot of hard work and various partners, but in 2000 it was permitted by the government. Again, another example of the mining industry working, allowing companies to explore, find deposits and then develop them. Ramu is a joint venture between ourselves, MCC, PNG government and the PNG landowners. MCC, for those of you who don't know, again, is another Chinese government state-owned enterprise. It's recently undertaken a merger with another Chinese company called China Minmetals, and it will be now one of the real mega companies around the world, focusing on resources, engineering and construction. MCC came into the project in 2005 as a result of the PNG government and ourselves going out and looking for a development partner. The mine itself, it consists of a mine that's inland on a plateau, which is connected by a 135 kilometre pipeline down to a process plant on the coast. The plant site itself has its own port, and from here an intermediate product, which is basically a concentrate of nickel and cobalt, is exported, mainly to China, but also to some other destinations. Ramu is a significant resource. It's got 124 million tonnes of nickel ore, grades at 1% nickel and 0.1% cobalt. Now, in the investment community at the moment, cobalt is a very hot commodity, and a lot of people are out there exploring for it. What we have with Ramu here is we're not exploring for it, we're actually producing it. The mine life is about 15 years based on reserves and about 35 years based on resources. And that's not closed off either, so it's a project that's going to be around and benefiting PNG for decades. This photo here is a bit of a snapshot of the mining operation, the inland part of Ramu, and it's been a real highlight. Mining at Ramu consists of 2 methods, a conventional digging with excavators and then a hydro-sluicing with water monitors, like big hoses. The sluicing was something that Highlands, we weren't the operator, but we put forward to the project and thought that it would be something worthwhile. It's now turned out to be about 30% of the actual mining, and it's also 40% cheaper than the conventional mining method. So it's been a great development for the project. Actually, I believe that the Chinese are actually getting an award for the innovation of using this in the mining, which is interesting since it came from Highlands. This just shows you the production ramp up. So we started producing in 2012. again, just go back and highlight that sometimes in PNG things take time. You find something in the 1960s, and 2012 was when we first started producing. It's been a steady ramp up. There was a bit of a downturn in 2016. Unfortunately, that there was a fatality at the project, and the plant was shut down for 3 months while a full investigation by the manager and also the government was undertaken. That sort of shutdown probably reduced production by about 8,000 tonnes. Other than that, it's been a steady ramp up from a major chemical plant that in the world, these type of operations have really struggled. So going forward, 2017, we're basically at our nameplate capacity, so producing 33,000 tonnes of nickel and 3,300 tonnes of cobalt. This just shows more on a quarter-by-quarter basis. You can clearly see there the impact of the shutdown. I guess what I'd like to mention is that while we're increasing production, at the same time we're actually reducing our costs. And that's been a great achievement because the nickel industry has been quite depressed of recent years. So we've produced nickel for around about US $5,500 a tonne. Now, given that nickel price is now around $12,000 a tonne and cobalt's around $60,000 a tonne, it means that there's a good margin being made. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the nickel and cobalt market, mainly because PNG now has a mine in this area, and it's good to understand exactly what it means. The major demand for nickel is stainless steel. About 70% of the nickel produced goes into stainless steel. So that's the main driver for the nickel price. But the battery market is making a huge impact, both for nickel and also for cobalt. The electric vehicle revolution, it's happening, and it's happening faster than people are expecting. All the automotive players now are working on electric vehicle technology, and governments around the world are mandating reduced emissions. You only got to look and see where governments are saying they want the percentage of electric vehicles sold. You only got to look at all the vehicle guys are saying that they're producing so many models by 2025 and 2030. People talk about batteries, be it whether they're batteries for vehicles or battery storage for houses, etc. Everyone talks about lithium batteries. However, depending on the exact type of battery, there's actually a huge amount of nickel and cobalt in these lithium batteries. There's 5 main types. The lithium cobalt oxide battery, the ones that are in your laptops and the portable devices, they've been the major growth in the past, but going forward, nickel cobalt manganese and nickel cobalt aluminium are the types for the electric vehicles. So for Ramu, for PNG, cobalt's in all of these, and nickel is in the 2 where the industry is growing. So it's very important. For Ramu, it's even more important because the product that we produce a mixed hydroxide. So as I said, it's basically a concentrate of nickel and cobalt, and that is the preferred source material for these battery manufacturers. They're able to take that material and put it straight into their processing. Now, Ramu's one of only 3 projects in the world that actually produce this now. A place in Australia, Ravensthorpe in Western Australia, has recently closed. So we're one of 3 projects in the whole world producing this. So going forward, look, we think the demand will grow. We should see better nickel prices, and we should see better payables in terms of our product, which is great for the project.